started, see how we can start with introductions here. I'm Michael Litton, the acting chair of the mission. We're going to go up at Matt.
Matt Caldy, Commissioner.
Meredith Dickerson, Commissioner.
Don Eggert, Commissioner.
Dave Parkhurst, Commissioner.
People are coming out here, so this is being kind of weird. Don.
Yes.
Don?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Don,
You're mute or something.
No, he's not. I'm hearing him. Don Eggert said he was here and was a commissioner.
Okay. I think the problem must be this tab. People are coming out and breaking up. I'm just going to have to deal all night, I guess. Suzanne? Anybody here?
You just went out.
Okay, so she's here. Daniel?
Daniel Olson, Commissioner.
Okay, and Dave?
Yes,
Dave?
I've said
Okay.
about 3 times I'm here and I'm a commissioner.
Did you introduce yourself?
Yes,
Okay. Sorry, it's going to be this all night. Okay, next item of this is approval of the minutes. And I have a question about that. Kate sent out a draft of the minutes in July, and I responded with some correction, and I suppose other people did also. I have not seen a revised draft, but anybody know if she revised the draft with all the comments for the record? Linda?
Why don't you all send your changes to me, because Jess is gone now. And if you had some edits.
Okay, yeah, both Kate and Jesus are on now. Okay, so we're going to table the 5 minutes, so we can verify that they've been corrected people's dates.
I can hardly understand you, Mike.
I just public comment. Is that here in the public?
You keep cutting out.
I can't. This is horrible. I'm full of break up, delay. I can't hear people. Do you want somebody else to do this? I'll be set down. It's going to be way all off me. Normally, my wife's computer, it's in the top, and it's what we have to work.
It's kind of a long shot, Mike, but maybe if you turn the video off, it'll be able to handle the audio more smoothly.
Anybody else want to run the show here?
did you hear Matt's
Yeah,
suggestion?
I'm not getting people at all here. Suggest,
I think he's
longer, but I suggest that somebody else go to the agenda because I can't communicate.
Well, I'll try to run the meeting. And if you didn't hear Matt, go down to the very bottom and where it says stop video and stop your video. And Matt suggests that may mean less bytes need to go through the system and your sound may come through better.
Okay, let me see if I can do that.
So we've done introductions. We've talked about the July minutes. Is there any public here that would like to give a public comment? Okay, Christy Lindbergh, well, let's hear from you.
Yes, thank you, David. Good to see you again. Christy Lindbergh, actually a former commissioner, and I'm here tonight with one of my colleagues, AKA Loner. That's Connie Griffin, and she's with the county. I'm a City of Bloomington stormwater education specialist, and she's basically my counterpart in the county. And together we are putting a video series together for homeowners on stormwater, and just kind of gauging the EC's interest in possibly partnering on this Mike and I had actually spoken about this a little bit before, and same with Linda. Basically, what we have in mind is to do individual videos on aspects that would be important to homeowners. And the topics would include planning, zoning, landscaping, permits, best management practice, and so on and so forth that has to do with climate change, basically. And we're just trying to get the word out further. And since it's also COVID time, we can't really do it in person as we have in the past. So we're thinking about going to the web and doing the videos. But again, we'll be doing 5 to 10-minute videos, as well as putting them all together in one workshop, and then also doing a moderated one.
Okay.
So we're pretty excited about this. We're just in the beginning stages, and others have expressed interest, such as those in Hand, the neighborhood people there, and CONA, which is a council of neighborhood or associations. And we're pretty excited about it, like I say, and just again, gauging the EC's interest and see where we can maybe go from here. As a matter of fact, Connie, would you like to say a few more words?
Sure, and I'm not a loner, but my computer is. So I just want you to know that I like people. So, but anyway, the Stormwater Management Board, Monroe County, is behind me all the way, and even increasing my funding for the budget line for adult stormwater education. We feel as though homeowners often don't know what they're getting into, especially in some homeowner associations. The infrastructure is, and the best management practices are kind of hard for them to understand, that some of those things are up to them to maintain. And so we're going to increase awareness with good housekeeping tips, lots of good stormwater overview, some of the driving force of the program, and ways to protect the water of the U.S., the waters of the state, waters of the world. And so I think that this will be an excellent means and tool of doing that for people that are interested in purchasing or that currently own. So I'm really looking forward to working with Christy on this. We'll work together on the contractors workshop this year. And I think that cooperation between us, as well as the MS4 Partnership of Indiana, was very successful.
Kind of basically building on that due to need that we're seeing out there.
Good, sounds good, and keep us informed.
Sounds good.
Will
It's
do.
nice to meet everyone.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Mike,
Any questions?
you want to try talking again, Mike?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, it may still cut
Hello?
off. You may still cut off, but we're now ready for
I
Lauren
heard
Travis.
very little of what Christy and the other had to say, just everything except for me.
Okay, we're ready for Travis, Lauren Travis.
I can't do it. Sorry.
You sound fine now.
I can get started. Just a second, let me search. Linda, are you the host? You have to enable screen sharing for me.
No, I'm not the host. Desiree is.
Hi, Desiree.
I got that. I will make you a cookie.
Anybody can hear me. Somebody else will have to take over facilitating the meeting. I can't do it.
Yeah, well, I've been doing it so far, so I can keep doing it.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, well, I think, David, we were going to scoot Lauren back just a little bit so Daniel could speak and give
Sure.
his report out of order, because he has to leave at 6:30.
Okay,
That's correct.
So I didn't I actually sent an email replying to that. I've sent 3 emails to the Monroe County Environmental Commission, to Nolan Herndon as well as I forget who else I emailed. They haven't gotten back to me. If that was the report you're looking for, I haven't gotten any results as far as us being able to collaborate with the Monroe County Environmental Commission on their survey. However, I do believe that Lauren, you are actually on the Monroe County Environmental Commission, correct?
I am, yeah.
Gotcha. Did you guys discuss that at all at your last meeting? I sent a couple emails in advising on it, and I think I sat in on your guys' July.
Okay, yeah. The idea was that there's a lot of opportunities for collaboration between the county and the city, and we were thinking of sending out a survey to the public to see what joint priorities that we could be working on together. And we are a smaller commission for the county, but I think that in terms of an outreach function, it would be good to work together on that, because I don't think that there's been too much outreach to county residents about environmental issues from both commissions. So we're just thinking of starting there.
What's the timeline for the survey, for getting it out, getting it prepped and getting it out?
It would just depend on, I think we're fully, I think all of our seats are filled right now on the county, so we could move forward at any time. If there were a particular subgroup in your commission that wanted to work directly on that, that would be fine as well. I think we were also delaying because there's a lot going on in Bloomington right now, and we would want definitely some student feedback as well. So probably late September would be good.
To officially get the survey out?
Yeah.
Has there been any work on the exact questioning or anything like that? Have you guys questions officially established or anything like that?
The only kind of work that we've done, the county is working on a climate ordinance, and so some of the work that the students have done in talking to the commissioners may inform the survey. So some of the priorities in that resolution, not ordinance, would perhaps be part of the survey questions as well.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks, Lauren, for giving my for me. I was not for
Yeah, sure. Okay, I will get my presentation up really quickly. Okay, thanks for having me tonight. This is, for the record, my name is Lauren Travis. I am the Assistant Director of Sustainability for the City of Bloomington. And Dawn kindly came to our last Sustainability Commission meeting, and this is a similar presentation on the topic of climate hazards that Bloomington is currently facing and will face it with increasing severity. And let me get started right here. So this is just a screenshot from our sustainability action plan, and one of the goals within that plan, and this was created by the community and passed by City Council in the fall of 2018, was to create a community climate adaptation plan and vulnerability assessment. And I know that you had Andrea on your commission for a while working with the Environmental Resilience Institute. And so this has been a joint effort using both their modeling that Indiana University has provided, and then also additional Bloomington specific projections, because it's important to know as a community what specific things we should be concerned about moving forward in terms of resilience. So part of how the city is looking to prepare for environmental changes, first to understand the impacts that we are anticipating, develop strategies to address those, and then outreach and communication. So that's where a commission, both the Sustainability Commission or the Environmental Commission, can play a great role, because as members of the community, it's a great way to interface with a broader number of the public, broader swath of the public, to communicate what risk we will be facing moving forward. And so this was something that we presented to council that we were going to be working on. On these two columns, the Environmental Resilience Institute showed basically what the Midwest should anticipate. And this is probably not a surprise to a lot of you. We've been seeing more of this every year, but increased precipitation, and that relates to what Christy was talking about in managing sediment in people's properties and also flood risks to their properties as well. More hot days and heat waves. This is particularly troubling if folks can't afford air conditioning or heat relief. Increased insect and pest and invasive species presence. Some of those are, vector-borne illnesses and increasing airborne illness. So even while we are having other public health crises, we have a migration of species based on the changing climate that's affecting Monroe County differently. And also based on the IU projections, we're going to, in a high emission scenario, expect 50 days of over 95 degrees and then a significantly hottest day of the year and a milder coldest day of the year, as well as a 16% increase in spring rainfall. So climate change hits different areas of the country in different ways. And so climate change impacts in California are going to, by definition, look different than they do in the Midwest, but we can expect more rain, more flooding, and that can be extremely costly to human life and property. And that's another thing to mention. So while it obviously is devastating from an environmental standpoint, human health and well-being are pretty central to this. So extreme weather, and you can think of examples like hurricanes, tornadoes, etc., can lead to injury, illness, displacement, or in certain instances, death. In the Midwest, again, that's more related to flooding for extreme weather, but we do have obviously some tornado impacts. Extreme heat, dehydration and heat stroke, increased disease from ticks, insects, and rodents, and then disruption of food supplies. So obviously there's been disruption of food supplies for other reasons, but you can see that we have a pretty fragile system that ends up providing us with food that we buy from grocery stores, and then also just property damage. So those are just some of the categories to be aware of. The next section, I'm going to get into our assessment of the ways in which Bloomington in particular is vulnerable. So the ones that, and it's difficult to see the difference between bold and not bold, but extreme temperature and storms is a big one. So if we have extended periods of increased temperatures, that increases the need for emergency medical calls. People that are suffering from dehydration, heat stroke, heat exhaustion, more temperature variability. So we're having less frequent lengths of snow or ice and more sort of extreme variability between very cold, very hot, in sort of seasonally inappropriate times. Flooding, water intrusion in buildings. That also causes mold growth. So if you have, more dampness, then that's going to cause property damage for that reason as well. Air quality, pollen, dust, fine particles, vector-borne disease, and then some of the rest of them that I mentioned, food insecurity, water quality issues. Water quality relating to increased growth of algae. So Lake Monroe, our water source, we need to be careful on monitoring algae growth on that water source, because if the quality decreases, then it also takes more electricity to treat that water, which also then contributes to emissions. And then infrastructure failure. So as the heat increases, we can also expect more power outages because of the temperature of the infrastructure, road damage, the variability changing and creating more potholes, and some challenges to water infrastructure. And then I also just wanted to bring in the economic side of it as well. So sometimes the other sides of the conversation don't resonate as much for folks, but also it has a economic cost as well. So if you own a business or, participate in the economy, which everyone does, we need to be concerned about agricultural yields. With increased storms, then you're going to have a decline in crop loss. Your yield will decline, and there's just more volatility. And then as it gets hotter, you're going to be spending more on energy because you will demand more air conditioning and heat control. Labor productivity, it reduces the amount of time people can spend working outside. And then there can be like a small increase in property-based crime, just related to, the weather changing and more instability generally in the economy. And then finally, I just wanted to talk about the fact that not everyone's going to experience these impacts evenly. They're not going to be equitably distributed. Folks that were having trouble before something like COVID, before climate impacts, are going to be disproportionately affected. And so in the picture, which is small, I'm sure on your screen, but you can see that's frequency of travel and therefore air pollution. So you've got I-69 that shows that there's a lot more particulate pollution coming from tailpipes. Anyone that's living closer to the interstate is going to have slightly worse air quality than others that are further away from high trafficked roads. And so there's a couple of areas, and I will send the slides to Linda as well, but just like traffic proximity matters, proximity to Superfund sites, not exactly related to climate, but just another environmental hazard. And then just other challenges that are related to sort of vehicular use, and then just also pollution. And then the types of people that are vulnerable, especially children, older adults, individuals with disabilities, people that are economically stressed are vulnerable to more of these impacts, nearly all of them. And then the tendency is that people of color may be particularly sensitive because of areas in the community that they may live may be more subject to different types of environmental harm. And how does this matter? So the risk that anyone is going to be susceptible to some of these hazards, so it's likelihood that you're going to experience that times the impact. The highest risk things, again, I mentioned like our storms, extreme precipitation, flooding, heat and air quality have a particular harm to people. And then risk to infrastructure, so a lot of which the city maintains, increased costs for road maintenance, stormwater management, which utilities is doing a great job getting grants out to homeowners, energy demand, and then just as the climate changes, some trees won't be as suitable for the climate as others. So planting resilient trees where we can. So I will be presenting a longer version of this presentation to City Council on September 2nd. This is just part of a broader climate action plan that's in development. This is essentially the why of why it matters to address some of these issues. And then also we're getting in more specificity about both how Bloomington can reduce the amount of carbon we're producing and how we can better prepare our community to be ready for these changes that are both present and will be increasing in the coming decades. So that is most of what I have today. There will be opportunities as we get into the fall to give feedback, to give community input. The timeline is a little bit delayed because we were intending to have a lot more community input in the spring. And that's obviously challenging in this environment, but we are retooling and going to use what tools are available to us to communicate with the public. Because that's another main goal in the plan, is to ensure that people understand the risk and have actionable things to do about it. So any questions you might have, I'm going to stop sharing now. And let me know.
Any questions? Guess not. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mike, are you not running the meeting now and I am? Well, I guess he's not hearing even, so I will carry on. Next on our agenda is reports from various organizations. The first one is Tree Commission, and I'll just do all three of mine that are on there at once, and then we'll catch other people. Let's see, I thought I had everything organized. And oh, there's the Tree Commission. Okay, so at our meeting yesterday, I've already sent you the minutes that Dedamia took, but our urban forester talked about a bunch of trees that came down in this last storm. There's tree planting still going on at Switchark Park. And there are some dead ones there that need replacement. And the forestry people are setting up a contract to deal right away with problem trees. And they're kind of expecting that that will go with, what is it, what's the company with all the big equipment? Anyway. Excuse me?
Bluestone.
Bluestone.
Yeah, Bluestone, that's right, thanks. And people talked about how we don't have an environmental commissioner on the plan commission now, and they thought we really ought to. That's of course related to Andrew's lawsuit. Didemia says we should be making noise about getting Andrew onto the plan commission, but I'm not sure how we would go about doing that. And I think Andrew might not like that, even messing with his lawsuit. So yeah, and that's about all from the tree commission. The next one of mine that's on here is ERAC. We had one of the longest meetings we've ever had. I'll go through the agenda pretty quickly. We talked about some interpretive tree apps for trail apps, I mean, that are being developed to go on people's phones to interpret trails as they walk around. That's in the early stages, I think. We talked about the Griffey Lake Master Plan update, and I sent you a long document about that. So if you're interested in issues related to that, if you go through that plan and see questions that you have, you can pass them on to me, and then I'll pass them on to people who know more about it and get you some answers. There is Clear Creek Trail update. They're taking out bush honeysuckle, Japanese stiltgrass, and people are getting happier about it. And some calorie pears are being taken out as well. There's tree planting going on at Schmaltz Farm Park. The trees are all still living. They have a portable pump that they use to irrigate them, and that's also being used at Southeast Park, which is 2 blocks from my home, so I go through that pretty often, and I'm glad to see they're fixing the trees. They're worried about the 17-year cicadas that'll come up next year. Seems like I left, oh, yeah. We talked about education. There are no field trips planned for now. There have been a few in-person events that have occurred. There's a bio blitz in September, and I'm not sure what that is about. So I'll skip over the rest of that. MC Iris has canceled its events this year, apparently. Another thing that we talked about was the Griffey Lake Loop Trail. Well, that's the thing I sent you the document about, I guess. And the Saturday weed wrangles that they were doing for a while have been canceled. The Miller Showers Park update, I sent you a document about that again. So if you have questions, you can ask me about those. So the third thing that I'm on this list of organizations is Friends of Lake Monroe. I'm one of about 20 people on the steering committee for a 2-year research program that they have going. Maggie Sullivan is the researcher for that, and she has I think a master's degree in environmental engineering. The main thing we did in our last meeting was to talk about problem statements for the watershed that are supposed to be addressed in this research. And so this document is fairly long. It talks.
Link on there, and I clicked that, went to that. Now I can't get out.
Okay, can I sit down a second?
Sure. I'm afraid to click on that invite. Close doesn't do anything.
Am I being heard or what's up?
I can hear you, but if you're not David speaking right now, can you put your mute on, please?
Yeah, that might help.
Yeah, everyone's was except for Mike. That was Mike's audio coming through.
Okay. We talked about these problem statements, and there are a whole bunch of double boxes. The first box is the public concern that was raised at 2 meetings that were held in Bloomington and Nashville
Somebody
last
just
year.
stopped video. I hit the stop video button. It didn't stop.
And then
That's it. I will you again.
next to that is a problem statement that's been rewritten of what we really need to look at. Let me just give you one example. The public concern was that waterways are not up to standard. We need to clean up E. coli. We need to ensure that boat toilets are properly managed. We need to look into pathogens coming from humans and animals, which involve, in the case of humans, failed septic systems. So that's the public concerns. The problem statement that goes with that is that elevated levels of E. coli in some waterways within the watershed may indicate the presence of fecal matter that can be associated with pathogens that might make it unsafe to swim and recreate. I basically wrote that because I've got a book chapter talking about that. 2 streams are listed as impaired for E. coli on the IDEM 303D list of impaired water bodies. The source of E. coli is unclear. It could be due to livestock, failing septic systems, boat discharge, or wildlife. So that we've got about 20 of those sets of public concerns, and then the problem statement that came from that. And that's how we spent the meeting of the Friends of Lake Monroe Steering Committee.
Dave?
Yes.
Can you restate where the public could find that?
I don't know that it's public yet.
Okay. Thank you.
I can ask Maggie and see if I could give it to you. And then I'll just pass it on if so.
Okay. Yep, thanks.
Let me make a note about that. Okay, the next organization on our agenda then would be Monroe County Environmental Commission. Do we still have? No, we don't have either of those people. We've talked about that anyway before Lauren talked. So BCOS, Bloomington Council on Sustainability.
The last, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. The last meeting was quite short, and the meeting before that, of course, Lauren went over what she went over today. I think basically I left my notes downstairs, but the thing that stuck in my mind was the issue over, there was a discussion over waste outreach and waste reduction outreach, which is something we should probably be engaged in, supporting as well. Also, I guess MC Iris, this month's meeting, I didn't attend, but because I had to go to a funeral, but I did go through the notes, and things have progressed rather well. I guess would be a nice way to, short way of stating the the targeting of the bush honeysuckle, and there was announcements of when there would be plant distributions, and they're not quite out of weed wrangles because the couple areas within our national forest have problems with the Japanese stiltgrass. And so there's going to be a wrangle out, if anyone's interested, I could just, I could forward that information as to when it'll be, but it's a little confusing as far as how exactly you're going to do it, particularly with questions over COVID distancing. It seems like it could be kind of awkward reading the notes from the minutes of the last meeting. But it does also bring up a question I have addressed to Dave. I've been volunteering at Southeast Park going after honeysuckle. Is there a formal process? There's some standing dead trees in the upper part of the park that's more heavily used, and well, there's a fair amount of use, of course, of the Canyon Trail, but there's probably more day-to-day activity in the area around the playground, and there are some standing dead trees there that are quite tall. They stick out like a sore thumb. Is there a procedure to bring this to somebody in parks?
Let me send you after this Joanna Sparks email address. She's one of the parks people that has actually worked there at Southeast Park, and you can ask her.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, the next place on the list, I don't think, does it still exist? MPO-CAC. I'm not sure what that is even. Linda, do you know?
It stands for the Metropolitan Planning Organization, Citizens Advisory Commission, and Andrew is our liaison for that.
I see. Okay. All right. Number 7 on the agenda is discussion of working groups. We're doing the A cycle this time around, and the first thing on that is the Plan Commission. So Linda, you want to talk about that?
Sure. Next Plan Commission will have 4 cases, and I'm going to go over them pretty briefly because both the ECPC and myself haven't really jumped into 3 of them very much yet. One is called the Brownstone Apartments on 14th Street, and that will be a significant student development. Another one is that's just a moderate sized apartment is at 19th and Lincoln, and another one will be at Hillside and Huntington. And then the one we talked about a little bit last month, the warehouse down adjacent to Switchyard Park will be going back for a second hearing. So that's about all I want to say about those for now.
Okay, thank you. We don't have a waste and hazards or a water working group at the moment, is that correct? So the A cycle gets cut off.
Yes, that's correct.
All right, we come to number 8, old business, an update on the Bachelor Forest and MCL, which is Monroe County Library. You may remember we put in a letter complaining about the fact that the library wants to build a southern portion of the library at what's now the Bachelor School, and their plans have shown so far that they'd be in places that would require them to cut down a bunch of trees. We've talked about that at the last 2 or 3 meetings. Then John Walsh, who's the head of the Board of Trustees, had a column in the paper, and then we followed that with our column that came out just this last week. And since then, I've seen at least one citizen's letter. I think I mailed that to you all actually, from
Kathy Meyer.
Kathy Meyer, who's just retired as the county naturalist. And she said she was actually, she organized that tree planting operation, and she's very much opposed to taking down any trees from that. I've looked into today it strikes me that maybe we ought to try to attend, probably by Zoom. Well, maybe not. Ought to try to attend Board of Trustees meetings. And so I have the, I guess I didn't end up with them here. Well, maybe I did. I found online the schedule of Board of Trustees meetings. And lo and behold, there was one last night. And when I downloaded the agenda for that, it didn't say anything about this extra library. So the next one, well, there's a working group meeting of them on September 9th. Their next actual board meeting is September 16th. And I have written to them and asked how maybe I or Tom Coleman or both of us can get involved with that and just go to the meeting and see what's up anyway. Let's see. Oh, it turns out that their meeting last night was on CAT, Citizens Action Television or whatever it is, but it was only audio. And as I listened to it, it sounded as if they were all in the same room. And some of the people were very hard to hear because they were way off there, and other people were easy to hear. So I didn't try to listen to it for very long. They started out the meeting, each person talking about what's the latest book they've read, and that wasn't too useful from the point of view of trees. So I guess if there's any other comments about the trees, let's hear them. Otherwise, we'll move on to point number 9.
Has there been feedback from the letters that anybody's aware of, response to anybody?
Nothing that I know of.
Nothing that I know of.
I also wonder if they've had any other, why just this one site? I mean, there's I sent a comment to David about the fact that there's a lot of other open land that would involve cutting down trees, you know, like Lucky's old building and huge parking lot. I just kind of wondering why they want to go, what's so.
Well, have you seen their plan? It has lots of separate parts, and I'm not sure that would fit on the Lucky site. You know, it has an environmental area outdoors and has a bunch of different things. So I'm not sure that would work at Lucky's, but it seems that there's enough land at the Bachelor Forest that they could put everything they want to put in places where there aren't already trees. And so that's what we're hoping they will come up with, but we'll see.
That sounds like yeah.
And somebody else, I guess it was Kathy Meyer, suggested some other place down in that region too. So
there's a large flat area that's part of their property. And I don't have any background on the discussions about that. It almost looks like a practice field. It's not their official football field, but it's nice and flat and green like a practice field. So it would be big enough, but the school might not want to give that up.
Right.
We know how important sports are.
Right. How much money the university makes from football, you mean? Huh? Right. Okay, number 9 on the list is new business, and we have 3 pieces there: environmental justice statement and letter.
I can speak to that.
Okay.
Right before both Jose and Jesus and Kate left, they sent me their draft copies. And in all honesty, I've been so busy that I haven't been able to do anything with them. So at this point, I would like to wait until we get a new fellow, which is the next thing on the list to talk about, to finish those up and send them around to the EC to finalize them.
We did see them. I remember they were sent to us back just before the day that you and I and Kate and Jesus and a bunch of people from the tree commission actually went and walked around in these trees, right? It was about the day before that we saw those statements.
That was their they did 3 options before our July meeting, and we kind of read them in the July meeting, but Jesus and I actually worked in late July on putting those together, and he sent out on July 30th that statement, like as one collective statement.
Yeah, right.
Okay, just wanted to make sure we were all talking about the same thing.
Yes.
The bottom line is I didn't follow up because I was too busy with other things, and we will be getting a new excuse me, new fellow next week, and so I'd like to pick that back up then.
Do you know yet who that will be?
No, but I'm supposed to know by tomorrow night. But
okay.
The 3 finalists were all great. So I know that I personally will be happy with any of them.
Okay. Last thing on the list for new business, I guess we've already talked about, is collaborating with the Monroe County Environmental Commission on the survey, right? So we did that before Lauren talked. Any other things before we get on to commissioners' announcements? Guess not. Actually, I'd like to start with a commissioner announcement, and that is that my wife and I are involved with a group called Vote Forward, spelled that way.org. And in my case, what I'm doing, they send you, well, you sign up to send a bunch of letters to people who they think may not vote. And they're trying to get people to vote. So the letter, they have one letter that you can print out for each person on your list. And it includes some space where you're supposed to say something about why you like to vote. So just for example, I've written this on 30 different letters so far. I'd like for those who make our laws to do that in ways that support the actions and ideas that I consider important. And so you handwrite that into each of these letters, or whatever you want to say that's the reason that you vote. And then you also print out envelopes or write them by hand if you have to, and mail those off at a date that they will tell you when to mail them. The date they said right at first was October 27th, but a bunch of us have complained that with the mail being slow the way it is now, it ought to be sooner. So they're looking into that, and they will give us new dates. And so I've already written 30 letters. I'm now have 20 more for Ohio that I'll be sending. The first bunch came from Georgia, and I strongly advise or hope that some of you will get involved with this group too. I think they're really good. We worked with them last election as well. All right, anybody else? Who's Matt? Any comments?
No, regarding the organization you just mentioned, we've worked with them on a previous election as well. I remember that seemed like a really good idea, but personally, no announcements.
Okay. Mike? Yeah, guess not. Meredith?
Nothing to announce.
Don?
I have a question. I would like to still like to write a write a letter on energy. I've revised it somewhat based on some recent report that I've read. And also, I guess a heck of a lot depends on writing the letter as to particularly the political climate related to the mayor's plan. Is there any feeling by the group and Linda as to whether we or any of us should comment on what the mayor's proposal? I mean, I agree with I think it's a good idea, but I realize there's a lot of opposition. Just by judging the letters to the editor and the Ellettsville Council, seems to be very opposed to the proposed tax.
Well, I'd say that you should go ahead and write the letter on energy. And if you bring in the new initiative at all, you should not give any opinion on it. If the EC wants to discuss it and come up with an opinion on that, we can certainly do that. But I don't think we're prepared to do that for this guest editorial on energy that you're writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so I would kind of just, I mean, you can certainly cite it, but without a discussion from the whole EC, I don't think it would be appropriate.
I just want to be very careful. I don't want to give any fuel to opponents to that type of the operation, and but just basically.
We'll just draft it as carefully as you can, huh?
Mm-hmm.
And then, I mean, it's going to be sent to the whole EC, and everybody can edit it and have their input on it, and then it'll come out as a voice from the whole EC.
Okay, because listening to the second time I listened to the thing that Lauren presented. There's so many environmental issues related to that also address social justice, jobs. It's really something that we can address in many different positive results, but getting ideas of even just how to save energy, doing every little bit helps. Let's put it that way.
Let's have a draft to look at, huh?
Okay. That's
Mike,
all I have.
2 questions for Mike. Hey, Mike, can you hear me at all? Give me a thumbs up if the answer is yes, and a thumbs down if the answer is no. Can you hear me?
Yes, temporarily.
Ah, okay, good. Do you have any comments for the group? No, okay. I guess the meeting is therefore.
Wait, I have one little thing, Dave.
Oh, okay, sure.
Last month, Don asked about one of the developments, and was it constructed to be with earthquake standards in mind?
Mm.
And I did check in on that, as I said I would. And basically, it's being designed as any other building would regarding earthquakes, any other building in the Midwest would. So there's nothing special about its design.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm familiar with the state building codes, and basically the only area there's standards for the southwesternmost counties have to meet higher standards than the rest of the state. So certain types of construction are, let's say, Vanderburgh, Posey, Gibson, are going to be require higher performance standards. These are really long-term risks. Not trying to be again alarmist, but it's just a risk is there. And when you have these garages on ground floors, they're one of the higher risk type structures because what an engineer refers to as a soft first story, a discontinuity in the load bearing of the structure. In a perfect world, you would build for really high standards, but the odds are relatively low, and tomorrow we'll have an earthquake that'll prove me all wrong. Okay.
Well, I hope you're wrong about that part. But I think the risk here in Bloomington being on bedrock, so to speak, is quite different than it is in Vanderburgh County, where they have to worry about liquefaction. So I'm not surprised to hear that the standards, the building standards, would be different. Although I have no background or knowledge in those kind of building standards. But anyway, it's designed to be built to building standards for here. That's really all I could find out.
Well, that's what I expected, and I definitely can live with it.
Okay, any comments from Meredith?
No comments.
Okay, and Desiree?
No, she's just here because she had to start the meeting for me because she has the authority to do it and I don't.
I see, okay. And is John Gade a visitor or what?
I'm a visitor.
Oh, okay, glad you were here.
Glad to be
Okay.
here.
So the meeting is hereby adjourned. Goodbye all.
Thanks, everybody. Bye.
Bye.